about to go into our next panel discussion. They look terrified. And these are actually media owners in the UK that target ethnic groups and make it possible for brands and services to reach diverse audiences. So can I please welcome the first guest onto the stage, Head of Sales, Prif Viz for Asian Media Group. Welcome. Thank you, Prif. Have a seat. Yes, any chair. So Prif Viz is the publishers of Asian Traders, Eastern Eye, and Garavi Gujarat Asian Media Group. Our next guest is Aleksandra Fiddler, influencer and editor-in-chief. Welcome, welcome. And up next, we have Debashi Pandit, Head of Multicultural Business for Sky AdSmart. And we have Mr. Taz Chowdhury, CEO of Channel S and Bangla Post. Please welcome Taz onto the stage. And last but not least, we have Priya Singh, Managing Director of Amber Community Radio based in the West Midlands. Please welcome Priya. Seated. Of course, thank you so much for giving us your time today. I understand you're all incredibly busy. Being media owners in the UK, could you please all just tell us a little bit what you do, starting with Prif? Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me right?
Yes.
I work for Asian Media Group, Head of Sales. Asian Media Group is the largest publishing house in the UK. We also do a number of big events, awards and conferences. So one of the titles that Thomas keeps calling me about is Eastern Eye. It's a consumer Asian newspaper. And we have titles like Asian Trader, Pharmacy Business, Garavi Gujarat, Asian Rich List. It's quite a few things that we do, including direct marketing. And we also have two contact centers in India if people want to talk to people directly in English or other Asian languages. We can help clients to reach out to those communities.
Thank you so much. Aleksandra Fiddler, you are influencer and editor of a Polish news channel. Please tell us about that.
Yes, I actually rose to fame about 2.5 years ago when the pandemic started, and I picked up my phone and I decided to do my first ever live. That live on Facebook was watched by 60,000 people, and I thought to myself, I've got something here. At the moment, I have 175,000 subscribers. They are all members of the Polish community in the UK. So when you think about it, if you possibly there's 850,000 Polish people living in the UK, half of them are children. With my 175,000, I reach about 40% of the adult Polish community in the UK. I also... I also own, and it's a new thing, for the last 5 months I've owned a Polish news portal, a website, and in its very short life we managed to get about 600,000 views every single month. These are articles all in Polish, and the news channel, the news program that I run at the moment 3 times weekly is gathering audiences of up to 100,000 for each episode.
Brilliant. Amazing. And next we have Debashi Pandit, Head of Multicultural Business. Sky already has such a big name, but please tell us about Sky AdSmart.
Yeah, so basically I've got 3 roles to myself. One is heading the multicultural proposition, which is making sure that as Sky, we are able to relate ourselves and make ourselves a bit more culturally relevant to the wide UK audience that we are serving. So we've got a portfolio of ethnic channels within the mix. And at the same time, we've got an addressable TV offering called Sky AdSmart, through which you can target people. So that's one part of my role. The other one is heading up the international business. So I represent Sky News in Africa and India, where we get incremental revenue on the international news feed of Sky News International. So that's the second one. which is a bit interesting because you meet people from various countries. And I'm also the co-chair of our employee network, which is Multicultural at Sky, where it's not just the external communities that we are serving, but also our internal staff. Because as you may know, Sky is a huge employer. We've got over 30,000 colleagues across the wide business, and a lot of them do come from an ethnic background. So we give them a safe place to voice themselves. So
Brilliant.
that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debashi. And moving on to Priya Singh, Amber Radio. Please tell us about yourself.
Hi everyone, I run Amber Radio, which is based in Birmingham. It is a multicultural, multilingual radio station. While I was not in radio, I remember my mum listening to Asian program which was run by BBC for half an hour, and she would listen to that program whole week till the next one came on. Then I joined media. I worked for a radio station as a production manager, and even then they didn't fill out the need of the languages that we speak. If you look outside, how many people do you see? How many different types of cultural people there are out there? And they didn't cater for them. And what I did used to find, it was just 1 hour maybe of a Gujarati program, one Bengali, and there'll be a whole lot of Hindi program. And there are other radio stations, community radio stations that runs, which are just catering in one language meaning it could be either just Hindi or Punjabi. So where we are covering every culture, every language. And during post-COVID, we find that we're working with the NHS and some other agencies who came to us regarding vaccination, what was happening with the vaccination, how far the COVID was traveling. So what we did was we translated in various languages, so people got the message from Amber Radio.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much. And of course, last but not least, Taz Chowdhury, CEO of Channel S and Bangla Post. So tell us a bit about those two publications.
Right, well, Channel S is obviously a television. Sky is on Sky platform. Our Sky number is very simple, 777, customer of Debashi here. We have to pay his bill even if we don't do anything, even if we don't make any money. So that is something that we started back in 2005. A satellite TV for the British Bangladeshis with the perspective of second and third generations who's been in this country, like so myself, and the younger generations at the moment. It's very challenging. It costs a lot of money. We are nowhere near a mainstream TV channel. However, we are much better than a lot of small ethnic channels. And in terms of the audience reach for the televisions is estimated, not only estimated, we are on BARB until recently. Last month we came off the BARB, what's BARB stands for? Broadcast Audience Research, where all of you guys from the media owners would decide. Unfortunately, it came off because it wasn't making commercial sense for us to be on it. So based on that, as well as our own research that we normally do, we hold over 60%, 60 to 70% of the market ourselves in terms of Bangladeshi audience watching the satellite TVs. And then I also own myself, as an individual, I also own a newspaper called Bangla Post, which I started back in 2003, 2 years before the Channel S. And I've actually been in the industry since '93. I'm one of the co-founder of Eastern Eye newspaper, going back in the days when I was a young man. So, been there, seen it all kind of thing. And I'm still, and it's good that someone like Thomas organized this today. After even 30 years, we are still trying to make the agencies understand what the ethnic minorities are and how to target people. So hopefully today we're going to break some, barriers and etc. and have people to understand. And the newspaper is basically its own portal because you have to move on time and etc. Thank you.
Brilliant. It's so nice to have a range of media owners here today, from Aleksandra to an influencer to print publications to community radios and the big boys like Sky. So we had a conversation with Voice Tech and Thomas, who were talking about taking their brands into multicultural marketing. If any one of you could take on the question that I'm about to ask is, what are the benefits of advertising in publications like yourselves that are targeted to ethnic audiences?
Well, the first thing is most of our readers are not consuming mainstream channels. So be it the Evening Standard or Channel 4, etc. So if you wanted to reach out to an audience who's got high disposable income and who are not consuming the mainstream media, then you'd come to us.
Nice and short.
I think
Taz.
it's more of a target audience, targeted, basically. For example, during COVID, Bangla Post and Channel S was the chosen by the Cabinet Office to spread, the messages of how to be safe during COVID and etc. And so it's all about targeting. Even likes of some of the clients that Thomas gives us, again, targeted audience. His client will specifically give us sending fee, like Western Union will give a free transaction or even £2 or whatever. It's target driven. And obviously because of the modern age, we have to back it up with the technology, i.e. the apps and whatnot, whether you're a TV channel or print media or even radio. Everything is electronic because we've got everything in our hand these days.
It's just a quick thing. It's really about content. Our audience don't get the contents they find interesting or seek in Evening Standard. For example, we have a lot of contents on Bollywood and entertainment. So it's an Asian audience, they love their Bollywood, and also cricket, as we said earlier. So you're not going to find a lot of coverage in Guardian or Evening Standard or anywhere. So if they wanted to find those news, they'll come to us. So that content is really key here as well.
Yeah.
And of course, which is written in the perspective and that one is because we believe and we see the mainstream media doesn't represent our interests. So if somebody else does, then you have to look after it. You have to do it yourself. So as I said, content is the most important thing. Of course, this is why we are still surviving, even though it's the time of technology. Still, print media still exists out there.
Yeah. My next question is...
If I can add, please.
Yes.
I just want to say very quickly and very simply, the reason why it's beneficial to advertise with us is that we have done the legwork. We have done the legwork on 3 levels. First of all, geographically. If you were to leaflet a British street with a Polish radio or Polish newspaper, how would you know which post box, which door to knock on? That's the whole problem. The street, you might have one Polish person living there. So how do you target, how do you cherry pick those people to target your advertising? You don't want to advertise to the whole world. I've done the legwork, but also I speak to my audience in the language that they understand, and that's the second benefit. And the third benefit is that I fully understand the cultural needs and the limitations, and therefore I target my content to the interest of the community. And I think these 3 are so important. So geographical, language, and cultural.
Brilliant answer from Aleksandra there. Please get it up for Aleksandra. That was amazing. And of course, Debashi, I'm going to direct my next questions to yourself, as Taz and Prif did mention about sometimes being restricted financially and sometimes not getting the budgets that agencies or companies have put aside for marketing. When people think about advertising on Sky, they would probably think it's going to cost a significant amount of money. But how does Sky AdSmart enable Sky to advertise to ethnic groups?
So AdSmart was set up with the idea of making personalized communication available to people that you think are your target audience, right? So we didn't leave our benchmark so high that you can't afford AdSmart. So I think if you really want to have a dab at AdSmart, I think it starts from as little as 5,000 to 10,000 pounds just for you to bite into it. And that's one example. But I think one of the things that I saw, and I mentioned to Taz, I think we need to do some homework, because I came into the country about 20 years back, and in these books or the leaflets, it still says 300 billion is the disposable income. I mean, let's take inflation into account, please, because 20 years back we said 300 billion is the disposable income. So I'm sure in 20 years there has been some form of a change in that, right? But we still seem to be latching on to 300 billion, which again talks about the budget part of things. Now, I think the game needs to be upped, and that game, it's a catch-22 situation, right? You can't up the game unless you get investment. And this is where I think the onus lies on every marketer or decision maker to actually do an internal audit of their own customer base, right? There's no point in all of us going and speaking to various people saying that, oh, give us a slice of the budget. But I think if a marketer who actually is controlling the ad spend does an internal audit of their customer base and subsequently does an audit of their media buy, they would find that there's a huge disconnect, because there is a probability where a particular community or ethnic group is buying a lot of your product, but your ad campaign is not being reflected in that same manner. So there is a lot of homework that needs doing, and I think the people over here, including us as Sky, we try to furnish as much research and information that we can to people, to clients, to advertisers, to help them make an informed decision. And that's where we are. So AdSmart, like I said, the budget is not high, but you can actually see the results because of the impact that we do. So we don't charge if less than 75% of your ad is viewed. We guarantee you viewability of your ad campaign. And the third one is we can actually cherry pick postcodes, like you were saying, Aleksandra, with regards to people watching the content.
Thank you. Thank you, Devashi, for that. And of course, I would like to ask Aleksandra and Priya, given that you're not a traditional media outlet, what would you say are the barriers that you have faced? And Priya, given that you were set up 10 years ago serving the multicultural communities, think about any barriers that you have faced. And of course, we will be doing a question round as well. So if you would like to take that question.
Well, many barriers. To be perfectly honest, I am not a born influencer. My job and my training is English teaching and translation. So I came from that background. I am more of an influencer by chance. To be honest, I don't have any barriers. It just seems very easy. People like me, people watch me, and the actual power of an influencer is unbelievable. It's phenomenal. I didn't understand, and I still sort of don't understand, or it defies belief what an influencer can do. I've done small campaigns, and we've sold thousands of products like lipstick or something. So I don't have any barriers apart from more advertisers. I can say, but it's a great fun. But one thing that I would like to touch upon, which I believe is extremely important, is that the Polish are not very often seen as the community with a lot of disposable income. However, I can literally see it changing in front of my very eyes. Even 5 years ago, the only advertising that people were thinking of presenting, putting in front of the Polish community were money transfers, because we were all sending money to Poland. But at the moment, we are interested in the finer things in life. We got good jobs as a community. We want to be a part of the English life. So we are interested in luxury items, cars, experiences, even anything, jewelry, hotels. So it's a diamond in the rough, I would say, and I think it's extremely underestimated by advertisers, partly because maybe people are scared of how do I speak to those Polish when they only speak Polish mostly, because we are the first generation. We all came without the language. So we are not like the Asian market who's got reputation of few generations. We all speak Polish, and you have to sell to us in Polish.
I think when it comes to Priya, we won't ask a question on barriers. You've touched that really good. So Priya, I want to ask you, in regards to being a multicultural community radio station, how would you say that makes a difference to diverse communities?
Well, it's in a multicultural radio station, you got people that you cater for. It's like for everybody, every language. If somebody doesn't understand something, we'll have a debate on it to say, okay, if you don't understand this, we can do it in this language. But as for barriers, we do have barriers. I mean, we get other radio stations who are advertising at a very high level, and then we try and work with people's budget, which is important as a new business that comes in as well. And they'll say, oh, could you do why are you doing so many languages? We said, if you look outside, like I said, there is everybody out there, and we want to give everybody a chance.
Brilliant. Any questions from the audience? Oh, okay.
Can I just add to the barriers? Basically, as I said, I'm probably in terms of media experience, probably the oldest in the panel at the moment, with 30 years plus. I still feel the ethnic community, the budget that we get is a leftover budget, basically, or maybe just goodwill gesture. We need to do something, that type of thing. And as I said, I've been banging my head against the brick wall since technically since 1993, to be honest with you, in terms of from a commercial point of view, and I still feel the same. The reason why Aleksandra don't feel the same is because of the community she comes from. And of course, we also got another problem in terms of the race also comes into it. The color of your skin also comes into it. The language that you speak comes into it. So, all that, although, we are in 2022, I think it's going to be lasting for more generations to come. I just hope that, we are in the right path. I think we are, and I've seen so many things in my time. Sorry, I've...
Hi everyone, I'm Taz. I'm the Global Head of DEI at MNC Saatchi. Grew up sneaking my aunt's copy of the Eastern Eye when I was really young, because she always told me I was too young to read it. Recently helped train the UK teams at Sky on DEI training as well, and inclusion training through Better Inclusion, and spent the better part of my late teens watching Channel S because I'm from a Bangladeshi background. So this has been really both nostalgic and really useful for me. And it wasn't so much a question, but just something to share with everyone. And I remember having a discussion with Western media leaders, from newspaper companies. We had editors from The Guardian and so on. And the comment that struck me the most was when we asked about the lack of representation. And I think it was someone from The Guardian, without throwing shade at The Guardian. They said, we just can't find the stories, so why don't you contact us? And I'm like, no, do your job as a journalist, because there's plenty of positive stories out there, you're just being lazy. And I know that's extreme, but I think the biggest thing for communities like myself is I cringe every time I hear there's a Muslim lead or a South Asian lead in a movie or in a TV program, and I'm like, this is going to be misrepresented. So ultimately, the biggest thing for me as a consumer of so many of these brands is I trust you to represent me, because I know that you employ people that have the lived experiences that I've had, basically. So yeah, very grateful. Just wanted to add that. The trust is really important.
If I can build on that, I, being the influencer, I have direct contact with my listeners and my viewers, and many of them are saying, look, I'm not watching any British TV, I'm just listening to you. Whatever you say goes. And it's unbelievable, because that representation is so strong that people just are not interested in anything else. So, exactly, yeah.
Brilliant. Any more? Oh, sorry. Prif.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in terms of planners and buyers and agency directors, we already said we get leftovers. But in terms of people talking about diversity and inclusion, and especially after the Black Lives Matter, a lot of brands out there want to be seen to be inclusive, and they want to target ethnic minorities. But I don't see that much action coming from the agency world, except a few. So a few agencies have teamed up with us as AMG as a partner with Dentsu, Mediacom, agencies like that. There's a few happening. And we are getting briefs, and they call it inclusive planning. So at the first stage, they're actually thinking about what are the ethnic titles, media they can include. So the brands are happy, the consumers are happy, they're being targeted. And at the beginning stage of planning, they also have to include the creative people. So when we talk about including black faces or Asian faces that reflect the Polish faces, etc., they have to talk at the beginning, that stage of planning. So what happens after the plan is done, if we approach a client, can you include in the campaign? They'll say the plan is done and dusted. That will be the typical answer that we normally get. So then there is the issues about the creative is not right. Again, there's a hurdle there. So really, if clients want to be seen as inclusive, the agencies need to actually represent them well and advise them. So yeah, that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Prif. Any questions? We have time for one more. No? Well, I think the point that we can take away is, even though we've had a very heated conversation about barriers and challenges, but the one positive we can take away is that ethnic media owners enrich diverse communities, and it brings culture alive, and you celebrate culture, and I think that's one positive thing we can take away. So big thank you to our guest panels today, and thank you so much for your time. It is now time for